Tom Brady. He's in your division now. What was your reaction to that?
I don't know that I don't know that it was that surprising. A lot of times you're kind of behind the scenes in the know relative to where a player like him is going. He's someone that we got great respect for, and obviously he's gonna change the bar there. That's the one thing. It's the one player that travels somewhere, and it's not, man, we've got to face this really talented player, and that's something that you have to obviously deal with. The thing that is most troubling is you just know he's going to raise the bar relative uh, to how that team then performs. And we were on a text not too long ago, and I finished my text back to him with hashtag keep the cannons quiet, and he kind of chuckled, and I think that's the one thing he'll bring in such a unique way is his competitive fire. Um, all those things that'll elevate the play of the whole organization.
Sean, I want to ask you about a conversation we just had with Adam Schefter, who had the medical expert from the NFLPA on his podcast yesterday. The idea being that, even optimistically speaking, it seems the first time that there's any real chance you will have your players on the field would be training camp. All of the OTAs and things like that typically happen in the spring will almost certainly not happen. So let's say that is when you are able to get on the field, late July for the first time. As a coach, what impact do you expect that to have on your players and on your team?
All right, so twofold, Mike. I think we experienced that in 2011. In 2011, if you recall, was the lockout season where we had our draft. We sent the paperwork out. Players had the playbook, and but it wasn't until training camp that we got started. Uh, Look, I think universally for 32 teams, obviously that impacts each team a little differently. I think it's more difficult for the teams with new coaches. I think it's more difficult for the teams that have had a greater amount of player turnover. I think it, to some degree, can benefit a team like ourselves that's experienced, same coaching staff, a lot of the roster intact. It puts a little bit more stress on the new programs, and yet right now, and that question's been raised, it seems like just as we follow news daily, which is so hard to do now because it's dramatically changing each day. For me and for us to kind of project where we're at come July and August, it seems like that's 2 years from now. But I would agree with what you just said. I think that that's a realistic, at least for today, a realistic goal. That might involve teams being able to send playbooks to their players and a handful of other things, training material, workout schedules, all of that. But I think realistically and optimistically, really, that would be a goal.
One last thing, Sean. I so appreciate this time, and at the risk of being overly dramatic, your team has been knocked out of the playoffs in heartbreaking fashion 3 straight years. And I just wonder, has this experience that you've been through and that we're all going through changed your perspective in any way on what all of that means?
Yeah, absolutely. Man, Mike, you've been around long enough. I was with the Giants. We had just played Monday Night Football at Denver. It was the opening of Denver's brand new stadium, and that was September 10th. We flew back during the night, landed in the morning at Newark. Our plane pulled up right next to the plane that was going to go down in Pittsburgh later that morning. And I remember being at Giant Stadium when the planes went into the Twin Towers and experiencing 9/11 as a league, as a team, though, 2 miles away, maybe as the crow flies across the Hudson River, and immediately just wanting to be with your family, make sure everyone's safe. And that was a time, and again, I'm not making a comparison, but it was every once in a while a moment like that really kind of allows you to step back and say, hey, what we do and for a living and it pales in comparison to human life and what we're experiencing globally right now. So yeah, and yet I think that those tough defeats in the postseason also develop a little bit of toughness and grit. And I like the team we have because look, each of those seasons following, the tough loss of Minnesota, that was a great play towards the end of the game they make. There was a lot said, how are they going to recover the next year and bounce back? And then sure enough, we're right there, a minute and a half left in the game, getting ready to go to a Super Bowl. And we experienced a difficult, obviously a poor call. Nonetheless, that's going to be the game that's going to really be the backbreaker for this team. How are they going to recover from that? And then last year, we're back in the postseason and certainly didn't play our best game, and yet we're in a position to win. So there is a toughness element to this team. I like this team a lot. I like the competitive nature of this team, and so when the time is right, we'll look forward to being back and competing. And yet, right now, I was on Twitter the other day, and we were putting some plays up, and I think it was an Atlanta Falcon fan who made a comment, and I just tweeted back to him. And we seem to, as a country, and we do this very well, understand and come together very quickly and put things like a rivalry game or some of the smaller things aside and really focus on what's important right now. And still, we're focusing on, man, slowing this down and understanding what it means to really even out the lump, and because our healthcare workers, our doctors and nurses, everyone right now, those people are on the front lines, and then having to go home to their loved ones, and that's something very challenging. Our team doctor lost his father yesterday. This is something that's touching everyone,